Hello children, welcome back to history class. Children, we have learnt that people have lived along the banks of river Narmada for several hundreds and thousands of years. Some of the earliest people who lived here were skilled gatherers, means they gathered their food from the forests where they lived surrounding the river bank. The food that they gathered consisted of roots, fruits, and other edible plants and vegetation. At times, they also hunted animals for their food. Now, children, in your textbook, look on page number 2, look at the map and locate Suleiman and Kirtar hills on the northwest part of our Indian subcontinent. It was in this place where women and men first began to grow crops like wheat and barley about 8,000 years ago. Similarly, rice was grown to the north of Vindhya hills which lie in the central part of our country and at Garo hills which lie in the northeastern part of our country. In the same map, locate river Indus in the northern region. Indus and its tributaries were the main sources of water for the early people. Do you know what are tributaries? Tributaries are small rivers which flow and merge or mix with the big main river. 4,700 years ago, some of the earliest cities flourished on the banks of these rivers. Later on, 2,500 years ago, cities developed on the banks of river Ganga and its tributaries and also on the sea coast. In the ancient times, the areas to the south of river Ganga were known as Magad region. Magad was a very wide region of powerful rulers. In present days, Magad region lies in the state of Bihar. Children, to the south of Asia lies our country India, which is also known as subcontinent. Subcontinent because our country is very vast in comparison to the other countries of Asian continent. Moreover, our country has natural borders which separate our country from rest of the continent. It is bordered by Himalayan mountain ranges in northeast, the Thar desert in the west, Arabian Sea in the southwest, Indian Ocean in the southern part and Bay of Bengal in the southeastern border. People travelled from different parts of subcontinent to other. The hills and rivers and mountains, deserts, etc. made the journey of travellers very difficult. Those times, people travelled either on foot or by waterways or on animal back like horses, camels, bullocks, etc. Men and women travelled in search of livelihood or to earn money. The priests and saints travelled to give advice. Teachers walked from village to village, town to town, offering instructions to the people to live a good life. Some people travelled to protect themselves from natural disasters. Merchants travelled with caravans or ships carrying valuable goods from one place to another place. Sometimes men marched in armies conquering the other lands and kingdoms, fighting battles. Right? There were other group of people who wanted to discover new and exciting places. As we go for picnics and vacations, these people during those times also travelled far and wide. The movement of people from one place to other place enriched our culture. By visiting different places and meeting different people, they learned the ideas and techniques of other people, like how they carved stone, what type of music they played and listened, what type of food they cooked, and how did they dress up and lived. All these changes took several and hundreds of years to pass from one place to other. Children, we know our country as India or Bharat. But do you know how did it get its name? Earlier, our country was known as Sindhu, which means river in Sanskrit. About 2500 years ago, the people from countries like Greece and Iran traveled to our country and settled over here. They were familiar with the river Indus and they named our country as the land of Indus River. They called it Hindus or the Indos, and the land to the east of river Indus was called India. The name Bharat were used for the group of people who lived in the northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. We get all this information about the Iranians and the Greeks from the Rig Veda, which is one of the earliest composition or book manuscript written 3500 years ago. The manuscript was written in Sanskrit language on palm leaves and on the bark of birch trees found on Himalayan mountains, and also through some inscriptions written on hard surfaces. Now children, the life and lifestyle of the people of earlier time was very much different from our lifestyle. The occupations of the people, besides being the kings or the queens, were herders, merchants, craft persons. They were also farmers who cultivated crops. Lifestyle of people of each group and of each region differed from that of the other group or region. For example, most of the people living in Andaman Islands, their occupation was fishing, hunting, collecting forest produce, while the people living in cities, their occupation was dependent on other people for their food supply. Other people like the farmers, the fishermen, the herders who would milk the cattle and provide them with the milk, the forest dwellers who would bring the herbs and all from the forest for them. Alright, the kings and the other rulers, they were always busy in fighting battles to conquer more part of the land and to extend their kingdoms and territories. We have enough information about the lives and lifestyle of rulers and other great people, but we have very less information about the common people of that time period, because these people, they were very less learned and they did not know or understand the importance to keep records. We get all the information about them only because of the archaeologists and the historians. I hope the difference between archaeologists and historians is clear to you all. Okay. So children, this was the story of how our country evolved from 10,000 years ago to 2,000 years ago. Now during this time, the country of Egypt in North Africa also had a very rich history of their evolvement. Shown here is the cartouche or the nameplate of the prominent rulers of Egypt as deciphered or translated by